No. Ah! You guys, or actually it's not morning anymore. I have been videoing all morning. It's one of those odd days where my hair went, I like my hair, I like my makeup, I don't like that I'm not centre, and I like this jumper. This is that jumper from Mooncats and I love it. It's a dry clean only jumper, but I actually washed it on 30 degrees and it's come out fine. It hasn't changed shape or anything, so I'm really chuffed with it. Anyway, I thought I would do this video on, I don't know whether I'm going to call it a day with Ehlers Danlos or struggles with the Ehlers Danlos. The thing is, this was requested and the sun is now going to shine right in my face and I need to pull the blinds down. As you may have realised, I don't talk about my Ehlers Danlos very much on my channel. I have done one video on Ehlers Danlos and pain relief. I think pain relief I called it, EDS and pain relief, something like that. I can't even remember if it was on this channel, if it was on my vlog channel or my beauty channel. In fact, I don't know where I'm going to put this, probably on my vlog channel. And I don't really talk about it very much just because, as I said in that video, I don't want to focus on it, because if you focus on something then it can get you down, and it does sometimes. I do sometimes get really upset about it and I just feel like it's not fair and I can't do anything and people don't realise what I go through to just have a normal day, etc. But most of the time I try not to focus on it. It's different to having, when I have a migraine, which is one of the things caused by Ehlers Danlos. Sorry, I'm just making some notes here. A migraine is not something you can say, don't focus on it and it'll go away, because it is all consuming. But Ehlers Danlos is a connective tissue disorder that causes many, many different symptoms, and joint pain for me is the biggest symptom that I have. I get migraines, but I don't get them very often. I have 2 or 3 a year that are what we call my suicidal headaches, which are just unbearable. The rest of the time I've got headaches. So I did that one video, and the purpose of the video was to give people the kind of positive encouragement that you can live a normal enough life with having this condition, and that giving you some ideas for pain relief, because there's many, many different things that you can do. There's no cure, there's no way that you can be 100% pain-free, but there are things that definitely help, and they help me a lot. And that video has been really, really helpful to a lot of people, and it's been lovely. I've got emails, I still get emails now, even though that video was 1 or 2 years ago. And from the very beginning, I got a lot of emails and a lot of comments, a lot of the time from younger people, from young girls, and it seems to be much more well known about now. People, you know, the doctors, and no, I've got a fright there with hubby coming in. I didn't expect him to come in. I never do. I don't know why. It's about the right time, but it always gives me a fright. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, I've got lots of lovely emails, lots of, I think I was saying consultants and whatnot seem to know more about it. A lot of people seem to be diagnosed with it much younger. So that's been really nice. But I've also had a couple of requests saying, can you talk about the daily struggles? Can you talk about how you cope and what you go through? And in fact, I got an email from somebody saying, you know, I know you don't want to be negative, but it would be really useful to know that I'm not the only person going through this. So I thought I would do this and tell you what a kind of day is like for me, and what it's like to try and do the normal everyday things that other people do, and what I do to solve that, if that makes sense. It is kind of like my other video, but it's a bit more updated. I'm never ever going to do one saying it's awful, and because when I'm down, and I wouldn't necessarily sit in front of the video and do a video, sit in front of the camera and do a video, because I'm not sure how useful that would be to anybody, and it's just not really me. So like I said, I thought I would just talk you through how it works for me, what my kind of day is like if I'm in the house, what my day is like if I'm out. I'll use the example of if I'm meeting my friend for lunch, so if I'm going to be walking around the town centre around Edinburgh. I have Ehlers Danlos hypermobility type. And what I can tell you about that is there is a more clinically severe type. Now, somebody didn't like it when I said that it was a mild type, but clinically that's how it would be described. That doesn't mean anything. It's the same with I have endometriosis as well, and I have they found mild endometriosis when I had it operated on. But regardless of mild or severe, some people with severe endometrial tissue can be in less pain than somebody with mild tissue. A mild amount of tissue. So it's not to say that if you have hypermobility type, as I do, that it isn't severe and that you aren't in pain, etc. It's just to say that there is clinically a more severe there are 3 more, I think. I don't know if there's 3 or 4. I can't remember. I think there's 4 in total types of Ehlers Danlos. And some are considered more clinically dangerous. But like I said, it's not to say that anybody is not in pain, anybody's more in pain than anybody else, because people with hypermobility type are also in all sorts of different situations. I have a friend that I met in the park, and she has Ehlers Danlos, and she is on a mobility scooter. And I think she is younger than me, so it affects everybody different. I have another friend she's in Falkirk, and she has to use a frame and has a lot more mobility issues, and she has hypermobility syndrome. So it just depends on your life and how much you've used your joints and how much you've known about this and how much you've corrected it, that kind of thing. Not corrected it, used things, like not done the things that you're not supposed to do, like over exercise. So for me, I wake up, I'll start from when I wake up. I wake up throughout the night, to be honest, but I don't get up. But then I start to wake up about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's because there's no painkillers in my system, because I'm on painkillers for every day, all day. And my body feels just achy, all over feels achy. And in order to sleep even, I have to have a pillow that I lean on, because if I'm on my side and my arm falls down, then I get a pain in my shoulder, so I have to have my arm sort of propped up by a pillow. That's really the main pain I get in the night. Sometimes my knee's more painful than others, but that's the main thing that I always get. But at like the early hours of the morning, I wake up and I feel in pain, and my whole body aches and my joints ache. And so it really is a case of dragging myself out of bed. The thing that gets me out of bed is very simple. It is eyeshadow, and a lot to do with my dog as well. But my dog is now, he lies in a little bit more, so he doesn't get up until we get up, if you see what I mean. But he used to get up and jump on me, and that was a nice way to wake up. But eyeshadow, I have usually planned the night before an eyeshadow look to do, and it's that I try to focus on. So I wake up and it's very, very painful. It'd be very easy to stay in bed, but I focus on the fact that I'm going to get up and do a new eyeshadow look whilst my painkillers are kicking in, and also that I can take my painkillers when I do move. It's difficult because there's that kind of, until I get up, I can't take the painkillers and they can't kick in. So I get up about 7 o'clock now. It used to be a lot earlier, but now we get up at 7. And I go and take my painkillers. That's the first thing I do. And I can't really do much until those painkillers kick in. So I make the painkillers. I usually change Watson's water. Kev has taken Watson out for a walk. And the painkillers I take are paracetamol, ibuprofen, codeine. The others I take at night, so like I take amitriptyline and whatnot. But I take the full dose of codeine, ibuprofen and paracetamol all day, every day. So I take those with a banana. I go and sit on the couch. I normally make a heat pad in the microwave for my neck and a water bottle for my back, and sometimes peas for my knees, which is like an ice pack type thing. And I get those all around me and sit on the couch, and I do my makeup. I have my makeup bag with me, and that means that I'm comfortable because I've got all these heat things going on and the painkillers are starting to kick in. And during that time I do my makeup, and I normally watch something on the TV. And I really enjoy that time because I actually can make myself comfortable on the couch. There's a lot of things that, like I said, with the migraine or the knee pain sometimes, that I can't get away from the pain and there's nothing you can do. But with most mornings I can get myself comfortable. The heat helps enormously, and it's a natural shaped one, a wheat one that you put around your neck, and the water bottle on my back, etc. So once my makeup's done, then I'm either going to be in the house doing housework or whatever, or sitting at the computer, or I'm going to be out with my friends. So if I was in the house, if I'm going to be doing housework, I would need to put shoes on, so like trainers or something like that, because I have to wear orthotics in order for my knee to not hurt. So I have flat feet, basically. It's another thing to do with the hypermobility, but my knees, I also have a luxating patella. My patella, sorry about that, there was a bit of a break there too. The dog came back from the dog walker. So now, where was I? I think I was talking about orthotics. I have to wear my shoes to do housework, basically, because they've got orthotics in. And actually I should really wear my shoes all the time. Like now, I do a lot of steps. I've got my Fitbit on, and I average about 10,000 steps a day, so I do a lot of walking. So if my knee hurts, it's a lot my own fault, because if I wore my orthotics all the time, I wouldn't be in as much pain. And I have actually got a long pair of socks that I put an orthotic, like super feet, inside so that I could wear them as slippers around the house, but I must wear them a bit more. But if I'm doing housework, I do make a point of putting putting shoes on, trainers normally, so that I've got some good support when I know that I am kind of rushing around, you know, because I tend to do my housework quite fast. In my house, there isn't much that is adapted for me or anything like that, other than we're on the ground floor. We had to move from a first floor flat to a ground floor because the stairs are probably the most painful thing for my knees. But so we're on the ground floor, which is great. And other than that, like I said, there's nothing that's specifically been adapted for me or anything like that. But there's things that I've got sitting around. So, you know, I use Voltarol gel a lot. That's a diclofenac gel. I find that very, very helpful for like my neck and my knees. I use my kinesio tape a lot. I use heat pads a lot. All of these things, it's great to have access to them. And that's really the problem with me working in an office. There's a long list, and it's a list of things that put together make for a miserable existence, if you like. Firstly, it was that, well, I suppose I put my makeup on and would go into work, but it was just getting up earlier seemed to make it more painful, and I didn't have an hour to sit and wait for my painkillers to fully kick in before getting to work because I started so early. But it was things like the lighting in my house. Whilst it's not adapted, I never have bright lights other than when I'm sitting here. But the lights are all dispersed, whereas the strobe lighting in the offices I worked in would kind of spark my migraines. If I do get a migraine, I'm going a bit all over the place here. If I do get a migraine, there's specific things that I have that I do. I do acupressure points, I've got peppermint oil that I use, I've got stronger painkillers, I've got diazepam if I really need it. I've got anti-sickness drugs, I've got a lot of things that I turn to if I get a migraine, but like I said, that's very rare that I get a really bad headache now because I'm on this codeine that controls my daily headaches. So what else if I'm at home? The thing is, if I'm at home, I'm mindful of using things. So I'm mindful of things that we buy. So we buy things that are lightweight, like the Hoover has to be one. I couldn't have a big upright Hoover. Like I've got a Vax machine and it's actually very difficult for me to use when it's full of water, but much easier when it's getting empty, if you like. So I do tend to empty the water a lot because then it makes it lighter, and not fill it up as much. It's things like that, but they're all sort of small things. But that's pretty much it at home, because the great thing about being at home, I was saying why I couldn't work in an office, the lighting, but I have access to everything here. So I will use, like I said, all my Voltarol gels and my heat pads, but I've also got like spiky balls and a big roller. It's like just a foam roller, but this one's actually got lumps on it. And if I lie on that and roll against it, it sort of, you know, things click and it just relieves the pain. And I've got a lot of things like that I have access to. I don't have to carry anything. When I was working in an office, I had to, because of the bladder issue, which is related to the Ehlers Danlos, I have to drink a lot of fluid. And so I took milk in with me or big bottles of water. And that meant that I was carrying a heavy bag in and out. The toilet was a long walk away from my last office, and sometimes that one was taken and you had to walk to another floor downstairs or wait for the lift and all that kind of thing. And that caused me a lot of pain because, again, when I'm at home, I have access to my bathroom, and it's basically just, I have to drink a lot, because if I don't drink a lot, I will get cystitis symptoms because I have bladder nerve damage. So if I don't drink a lot, I get that symptom. So I have to drink like constantly, almost constantly I'm drinking. However, I go every hour for a wee, and I can't hold it for longer than that because it feels like I've got acid in my bladder. So again, whilst at work, I'd be drinking a lot, but then it just suddenly feels like you've got acid in your bladder, and then I couldn't get to the bathroom. So these were all the reasons that I was granted working from home. It was carrying things, it was the strobe lighting, it was, you know, the access to my physio things, all that kind of thing. If I go out, it's a lot more complicated. So if I am going to meet my friend for lunch, like I said, that's the one that kind of requires some preparation. So I would generally try to not do anything the day before, because for my knee, if I had a day of rest, then it would give me more time to walk. My knee is such that periods of rest give me some time to walk, if you see what I mean. So if I sit down for 5 minutes, I can walk for 10 minutes, that kind of thing. And actually walking is not so much of a problem for me. I can walk on days that my knee's not too bad, which actually the last little while it's not been too bad at all. I've gone through periods of much worse pain than this, and for whatever reason it's a lot better now, which is kind of strange because I'm a lot heavier, and that will cause my joint pain to be worse. But a day of rest will definitely give me more time on my feet. What is painful for me is going up and down stairs or standing still. So standing in queues is very, very difficult for me. So if I'm going uptown, I'll have the day of rest before, What I'll additionally do is wrap up kinesio tape. I will use on both knees because both knees hurt me, but one's worse. I'll use it on the front and back. I used to just use it on the front. And if I sometimes get plantar fasciitis as well in my feet. If I've got that, I'll strap up my feet. I'll strap up my back. Whatever is hurting, I'll use my kinesio tape on it. And take painkillers and make sure I've got the painkillers on me to take with me and food to take them with. And then I have to try to balance out the fluids that I'm drinking so that I don't need to constantly find a toilet that's often got queues for it, with not becoming dehydrated and then being in pain, you know. I need to make sure that the bag I'm carrying is not going to pull on my neck and shoulders, etc. So I've now got a rucksack, a Kipling rucksack that I use. Before that I did have a smaller rucksack, just a no-name one that I used, and I would swap everything into that when I was going to meet my friend. It just makes it more even, you know, weight, but I have to be careful when I'm shopping that I don't buy, so you'll never see me coming back from Edinburgh with a whole bunch of shampoos and conditioners because they're just too heavy to carry. I'll tend to only do that when I've got the car. You know, I'll buy little light things that I can put in the rucksack or that are quite light to carry. Also, if I'm going into town, because obviously I can't have my hot water bottle or my wheat pad, I use the stick-on heat pads. I keep them in here actually. These ones, the deep heat patches, and you get ones that are just square, which I can use for my back. You can get ones that are shoulder and neck shape, so I use them on my neck. That's pretty much it when I'm in Edinburgh. I'm sure I'm going to think of hundreds of things after this. I'll think, oh no, I can't do that, and I do this, and I can't do that. Like I said, I can't do stairs, so there's not too many places in Edinburgh, but there are some places where you, like for example, when Tracy and I meet for lunch, we go to Cafe Andalus, and I normally make the reservations. This is, again, you have to plan ahead. I make the reservation and ask for a downstairs area, but sometimes it's too full and we have to go upstairs. I can go upstairs, but it causes me pain, and I go up one at a time. If you see me, I look like I'm about 90. When I'm going up or downstairs, I take them one at a time, and I kind of go sideways and hold on to the bar. And I can do it though, so there's no reason that I would have to be downstairs, but it just means that I could then maybe shop for a bit less time afterwards because my knee would be sore. And also I tend to use the disabled toilet, which is on the ground floor, of course. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's an awful lot. It's really up and down, and I suspect everybody else with Ehlers Danlos will tell you this. Some days can just be everything's in pain, and it feels like it works that way with me, that I'll get a migraine and backache and knee ache, and everything seems to hit me at the same time, and I just feel like I'm completely falling apart. And other days it will be good. And actually I've had the last few months, and probably even the last year, has actually been fairly good with my knee, other than the occasional, say there'll be a week where I can't do anything and I can't get off the sofa. Kev has to do all the ironing for me. I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything until that sort of inflammation has gone down, if you like. The evening, I haven't talked about the evening, but the evening is the same regardless of whether I've been out in the day or whether I'm at home, in that I do try and do my physio when I can. And the physio, not all the physio works for me, but the physio that's really important for me is to stretch my thigh, to stretch my calf, and to stretch the one that's behind the thigh that I can't remember the name of, because they can get over tight, and the key is to stretch them without overstretching. That's the big thing about hypermobility. You don't want to overstretch. And everything on me, I'm a 9 out of 9 on the Baton scale, which means I'm kind of as hypermobile as you can get. So everything overextends. And I have to be careful not to overstretch. So I do that. And I've also got proprioception exercises to do, which I only found out about this a couple of years ago. I have always, my whole life, when I've been in a change room, if I stand on one foot to try trousers on, I've always held onto the wall or fallen over, and I just assumed everybody was the same. Apparently not. That is something that's, if you have hypermobility, you don't have very good balance or a sense of where your limbs are. And Kevin and I have laughed about it over the years, you know, because he'll say, but you know, if you close your eyes, you know where your arms are, don't you? And I'm like, only by feeling them, not like I couldn't put my arm up like that and know where my arm was. It's really hard to explain, but you don't have a sense of your limbs, which is why I don't have very good balance. I'm very, very clumsy. And you get these exercises, these proprioception exercises, which is to stand on one leg. It's basically muscle memory, to stand on one leg at first until you can balance. And I have to do it by a bookcase. I can actually now balance for a little bit on one leg, and then you have to do it with your eyes closed. Try it. It's actually harder than you think for anybody, because even Kev says he found it hard to stand on one leg with his eyes closed. But the more I can improve my muscle memory and proprioception, the better for me. I'm also supposed to do strength exercises because the more you can build up the muscles that support the joints, the less joint pain you'll get. But to be honest, I don't do them very often. Then I sleep by about 9 o'clock at night because amitriptyline is a drug that I'm on for the joint pain, for the migraines and for the bladder nerve pain, and I couldn't live without it. If I wasn't on that, this would be a whole different video, and I just would say I'm at home all day in pain all day and I can't leave the house, because that's what it was like before I was put on it. But the side effect of it is it's sleepiness, and it makes you go to sleep. But that's good because I was always an insomniac, and with amitriptyline, with the right level of amitriptyline, the sleepiness overcomes the pain. And so, like I said, although I wake up a few times in the night, I go back to sleep again, and I don't wake up again then until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, simply because the painkillers have run out. But amitriptyline means I get a good night's sleep, which if you're in pain and you lose sleep, that's something that can just, it's so bad for you. It's bad for you mentally, psychologically, you know, physically it's so bad for you to lose sleep. So I love my amitriptyline, as I've talked about in that video about amitriptyline. If I were to go to a party, I've got a party to go to at the weekend, then I would have to, I don't think I'm going to go, don't think I'm going to be able to go, but if I were to go, I would have to take my amitriptyline later in what I was eating, so I'd not on an empty stomach, and then it would take longer to get into my system, which would then keep me awake for longer. That's what I did on my wedding day. I also have to be very careful about what shoes I wear. So in the summer it's harder to meet my friend for lunch in Edinburgh, because what I'd love to do is wear a pair of flip-flops, but I can't do that. I need to wear something that it's not just about, some people have mentioned these places where you can get orthotic flip-flops. I haven't found any that I've liked. The only ones I like are the I'm going to forget the name of them now, the German ones, the toe post ones. I've got a pair of those and I can wear those, and it's only the toe post ones, because the idea is if you've got flat feet or joint problems and you're wearing orthotics, is you need to hold your foot in a shoe. So when I go to see the podiatrist, it's that I'm supposed to have shoes that tie up or buckle up or something right around the ankle that hold your ankle in, so that it's not lifting when you walk. So flip-flops are an absolute no-no, because there's no support, because they don't hold your foot in. But these toe post, what are they called? Do they begin with S? Heidi Klum was known for wearing them. I'm sure you'll know what I mean. Birkenstocks, that's the name of them, Birkenstocks. I have got a pair of black toe post Birkenstocks, but it's tricky. I wish they came in half sizes, because the 38, which is a size 5, is just right for my right foot, but a little bit too small for my left foot. So it means I rub up against the end of it. But the 39, the 6, is too big for me. But they're the ones I wear, because in those it's better to be too big. But if they came in a half size, it'd be perfect. So I can wear those, and I do wear those sometimes, but generally not. If I am meeting anybody for any length of time where I'm going to be shopping and walking, I need to be wearing my boots or trainers or Converse. So you'll see me mostly in Converse, and it's, like I said, it takes away, you know, I can't wear a lovely floaty dress. Well, you could, I suppose, with a pair of Converse, but I've got many outfits that I think would be perfect with flip-flops, and I used to wear flip-flops with, or sandals, that kind of thing, and even bought some sandals, didn't I, from Clark's last year, that I never ever wore and that I just can't wear. So I need to sort of plan in that respect as well. One thing I haven't spoken about is operations. I have had an operation on my right knee, and I've had an operation on the base of my back. There are some things that you can have done to help the symptoms. So that's arthritis for me. I can have an operation on my left knee if I want, but actually it's not yet bad enough, because my right knee is still painful, but it causes other things, like I've got arthritis and migraines and all of this, and it can cause Chiari malformation and plenty of other things that you can get. But there's also, you'll find that people with Ehlers Danlos, that doesn't exclude them from having other conditions. So for me, I have Ehlers Danlos, but I also have endometriosis. I also have polycystic ovary syndrome. You know, I have these other things, these hormone imbalances that also affect you physically, that then combined with everything else can make it very difficult to deal with. But like I said, I don't like to focus on it. I think that's enough, because I am starting to feel, this is the thing, it's like when you start talking about something, I could easily feel down in the dumps about it. Like I said, I do sometimes, and I have on occasion when I've been in a lot of pain and I've met my friend, I have sat there crying and saying, I just don't know how much more I can take. I just would like a break from the pain. I'd just like one day without the pain, and having to get up every morning with this pain and fight through the pain through the day and all of that, you know, and not be able to do anything without there being something that stops me, you know, like I can't go on as many dog walks as I want, because either I'm limping or I need to go to the bathroom and there isn't one, and all of this, you know, and I do get upset about it now and again. But the more you talk about it and talk about how bad it is, the more you start to feel yourself kind of go, Oh yeah, it is awful, you know, which is why I don't like to focus on it. But like I said, this video was requested, so I thought I would do it, and hopefully it will help you. Hopefully it'll be interesting. Hopefully it will do as the people asking wanted, and make you feel like you're not alone in what you're going through. And like I said, I know that there are people that are much worse than me that can't get out of bed and can't go anywhere. But hopefully this is maybe giving you some solutions to what you can do and how you can make it work for you.
Different day and different clothes, but I knew that I would remember things about Ehlers Danlos that I hadn't told you guys, and I suppose it doesn't matter that I've forgotten to tell you, but I really wanted it to be, because it had been requested, I wanted it to be a comprehensive video where I covered everything. Otherwise, what will happen is people will say you didn't mention this and you didn't mention that. So the two things that I didn't mention, and one of them I've been reminded of because it's happened to me, is the injuries that we can get. I think I might have briefly touched on it, but the injuries that we can get from being hypermobile. And what I've got right now is shin splints. So I've woken up with shin splints on Saturday, I think it was, maybe Saturday afternoon, and I'm not quite sure what caused them. And that will be the problem with being hypermobile. It can be as simply as a little walk down the road and back can cause you to have an injury that somebody that was like an athlete, had run a marathon, would have. So I get plantar fasciitis, which is in your feet, and I get that from simply walking, you know, and not walking a long distance, or any certain jarring movements and things like that. So you'll find that people with hypermobility often have injuries. So I've often got, apart from the usual knee pain, etc., I've often got something extra, like frozen shoulder, or my tennis elbow has flared up, or I've got a shin splint, or I've got the plantar fasciitis, or something like that. And then there are other conditions that come on and go away as well, like the hyperpositional vertigo that I have, which is basically where if I stood still, I feel like everything's spinning. But there is a solution to that. If anybody gets that, let me know, drop me a comment, and I will, maybe I'll try and remember and put it in the description, a link to the Epley manoeuvre, or just look up the Epley manoeuvre, because my husband does it with me, and although it makes you dizzy, you will find that the following day your dizziness is gone. It's something where it's not just standing up, like I could bend over to tie my shoes and it would make me faint. I need to sort of sit down and lift my foot. It's all very difficult. But the biggest thing that I forgot to mention is the dislocations. That is a thing that everybody with hypermobility has, but we all have it in different places. My friend that now lives in Australia, she's Australian, actually she went back to Australia, she had hypermobility and she could drop her shoulder out of its joint. So she would do this and her shoulder would drop out. For me, I have it in my hips. And that's really all that I feel actually comes out of its joint. So it's if I get off a bicycle, I used to be able to use the exercise bikes. I can't use that anymore. I used it for rehab in my knee, but because of the bladder thing, it actually irritates it and I can't use it. But when I used to get off the bike, my hip would come out of its joint and I'd have to kind of maneuver in a certain way to get the hip joint back in. And a lot of people with hypermobility suffer dislocations, which can be painful. For me, they're not in my hip. And the final thing to tell you was that, just in case you're interested, in case you have hypermobility, is the Baton scale. Like I said, I get 9 out of 9 on the Baton scale, and I can show you a couple of the things they test for. I always think it's this one. One of the things, that the fact that I can put my thumb back like that shows that I am hypermobile, but I can't remember if that's one of the tests. I think it's more with your finger. It shouldn't go that far back. It should go, I think, to about there. I'm not sure, but that's one of the tests. If you look up Baton scale or the Baton test, you'll be able to find it. One of the, at school I was double jointed and could move my fingers around all sorts of ways. And one of the other things I remember is when I was in Spain, I was sort of stretching out, and a Spanish friend said to me, "Oh my God, look at your arms," because when I do that, my arm actually turns right the way around the other way. So you can see the inside of my elbow turns outwards. And that's kind of a key thing with anybody that's hypermobile. You will be able to move your joints more than everybody else. Touch your toes is one of the other Baton scale tests, if you can touch your toes. And all of these things, they used to be considered very funny, and you'll see a lot of hypermobile people in like circuses and what, because of all the tricks that they can perform and how much they can maneuver their body. But you need to not do that, because those things like doing this isn't very good for my joints. And so that's why it's so hard to stretch, because you see my finger goes further than it should, and my knees, where people's knees stand straight, my knees actually go backwards, so my knee sort of bends backwards a bit. So when I'm trying to stretch, I'm pushing the joint too far, and so it's learning to stretch within the normal range, which is very, very difficult. But I've had a lot of physio where they say, no, you're overstretching, you know, and you learn to understand where the point is. So I just wanted to come and add those few things in, and I did say that I'd go away and remember new stuff, and I really wanted to let you guys know specifically in case you have a suspicion that you're hypermobile. Go and do the Beighton test and see what your results are.
Thank you so much for bearing with me and for listening, and I will speak to you again soon.